Hello YouTube, LD50 here with my first FLAC build video. I would like to give a shout out to SpacerobotTV. I'll leave a link to their channel in the description. They're the instigator of this build. I'm just giving my own spin on it. I would like to say at this point that I am not a FLAC expert, and this build is based entirely on other people's work. But I'm happy to bring it to the channel and show it off. Please go and visit SpacerobotTV, their channel, and give them some love. Maybe even subscribe to them. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. So this is a build for FLAC, and it's a build using fadeaway, and it's a melee build. This build doesn't use Megavore, and we'll be touching on that as we go through the build video and we discuss the gear and items that you will need to make this build work. But let's jump straight in. We have all of our skill points, 58, and we'll start allocating them. We'll first go down the Stalker Tree, because this is the tree that we want to max out. We want to get ourselves all the way down to the capstone, the power inside. On our first tier, the only thing that's really going to help us here is self-repairing system. So that is health regeneration and a little extra max health. So if we stick 5 points in there, we're going to get 1.5% max health regen. That's constantly on. That'll help with dots and that sort of thing. When you've finished combat and you've taken on a dot and there's no one else to get a second wind off. We will, however, be using our pet to revive us as well, so this should be sufficient for the build. We'll then go down and put 5 points into Eager to Impress, because this is going to cool down our action skill. We're going to be using Fadeaway. Fadeaway has a 15-second duration and a 45-second cooldown. So we want to extend the duration and we want to reduce the cooldown as much as we can. So on this tree, Eager to Impress is going to help with that. We want to take Lick the Wounds, because this will be a major help if you go down. FLAC is a little bit spongy sometimes, a little bit squishy, and if you don't manage your action skill uptime, it is possible to go down, and obviously having your pet revive you is a great bonus. We'll stick 3 points into Turn, Tail and Run. That's because as we're running around we'll get some health regen and damage reduction, but also while we still whilst we stand still, we will get some extra gun damage. Now we need to get down to the next tier. I did say we were only going to use one major skill on the first tier, but I'm going to put a sticker point into Furious Attack here, because it will give us a little bit extra gun damage and it allows us to get down to the next tier. We want to stick 5 out of 5 into Hidden Machine. Now this can be problematic, Hidden Machine. If enemies have already seen you before you go into Fadeaway, they can still target you, but if you activate Fadeaway before you go to where the enemies are, then you will be getting a 30% damage boost. I like to put 3 points into Fast and the Furious, because that is gun damage and pet damage and a little bit of movement speed. That does not hurt at all. When we talk about comms, we'll talk about what comms can boost what. Yeah, we'll go to revisit this in a minute. We need to get down to the bottom, so we're just going to put 2 points into Rage and Recover. 3.2% missing health for 3 seconds after killing an enemy. It's not great, you know. You're going to get about 10% of your health back in the 3-second period, but obviously you can kill again and get some more health. It just helps to keep you alive. FLAC doesn't have life steal, so this is a great skill. If you find that you're still not staying alive enough, you could take points out of, maybe a couple of points out of here or a couple of points out of there. to put some extra points in here, but I find for the build that this setup is sufficient. I have seen points put into here, and if you're playing co-op, you may wish to put some points there for shared regen, but I personally have found that I'd rather have the points here in Fast and the Furious. And then finally, we'll top this off with the power inside, which gives us an extra 25% damage and 50% damage if our health bar is full. We'll move on to the master tree. We're not going to go very far down here. We really just need to get down as far as frenzy. What we do want to do though is to put all 3 points into persistent hunter, because that gives us a 12% gun damage boost, but importantly gives us 45% extra action skill duration, so almost doubling the 15 seconds for our fadeaway. And obviously we need to get down to the next tier for frenzy. You can put the points here, or you can put points here. I prefer to put them here. It is a 20% damage boost for the pet that's on all the time. Obviously if you prefer 30% critical hit damage for the first strike, but it's not really a pet based damage system, so the choice is yours really. As long as you get 3 points into persistent hunter, you can put the points either side. And then we want to be putting 5 points into frenzy, and we would like, if possible, to get this boosted. As you can see, this is boosted by the comm at the moment. Let me take the comm off so you can see the naked skill tree. And then we will put just a single point here. It will help keep the pet alive. By keeping the pet alive, we can increase the chances of the pet being alive when we go into fight for our life, which means that the pet will be available to resurrect us or revive them. Finally, we're going to put some points into the hunter tree, and ideally we'd like to get down as far as Galactic Shadow. We'll talk about critical hits in a minute, and how they apply to this build, but first of all we'll start off on the top tier. Interplanetary Stalker, 10% per stack. We can have up to 3 stacks, so that's up to 30% damage bonus, up to 15% pet damage, and then we have some other bonuses against robots, humans and beasts, which will all help with our damage. We recommend also to put 3 points into Leave No Trace. Again, we're not doing critical hits with our weapons, but we are achieving critical hits with our artifact. We'll go through the gear in a minute. We want to put 3 into head count because critical hits will reduce our action skill cooldown. We'll get fade away back quicker, and that is important. 5 points into Hunter's Eye because critical hits versus humans, armor damage versus robots, and damage reduction versus beasts. If we take this build into the Malawan takedown, then 30% damage against Wotan is certainly not to be sniffed at. 15% critical hit against all of the Malawan troops, again not to be sniffed at. And 21% damage reduction from the dogs. So there you go, you can see how this skill is important in a setting like the Malawan takedown. This has now opened up big game, and we want big game because we want our hunter skills, for instance Interplanetary Stalker, to be more effective and to last longer. So this skill, by putting 3 points, will give us 30% extra to our hunter skills, and will make them last for twice as long. 100% skill duration, they last for twice as long. Now, we need to put a point down here, and we need to get there. You can put a point into most dangerous game, you can put a point into ambush predator, you could put a point into second intention. I personally like second intention for the reload. It's not a lot of reload, but it is a little bit. If you prefer to put your point here for the gun damage after badasses, you're at liberty to do so, as long as you can get down to put a single point into Galactic Shadow. Obviously we'll be using fadeaway, and you can choose the augments that suit you. I happen to like Not My Circus and Unblinking Eye. This is giving us a massive critical hit damage bonus, and Not My Circus giving us damage reduction on the pet, but importantly, when you come out of fadeaway, your pet will taunt, will take the heat off you. That's the build. Pet wise, you can choose a variety of pets. I happen to like using the Gunslinger Jabber, because that will help us keep Frenzy up. When our pet deals damage, we gain a stack of Frenzy. At 4% per stack, we can have 40% gun damage there. So let's talk about the weapons. This is a melee build, so we're going to be using the Face Puncher. But LD, the Face Puncher doesn't do critical hits. No, that's right, it doesn't. But we'll be pairing the Face Puncher with a White Elephant artifact. The White Elephant sticky bombs, if they land on a critical hit, will score a critical hit. So we turn the Face Puncher into a weapon that can deliver critical hits. By delivering critical hits, we can get our action skill back quicker by using head count. Obviously with this build it's important to actually aim for critical hits. We're not using Megavore, and in any case the critical hits that the White Elephant is capable of achieving do not apply to Megavore. Now there is one caveat. If you use a grenade or a shield that has an action skill element anointment, say for instance this shock, action skill end, gain 50% bonus shock damage with weapons for 10 seconds. When it is activated, that anointment damage would proc Megavore, but it's quite an investment to get down to Megavore. We would have to sacrifice something out of the blue tree. We'd probably have to sacrifice Frenzy, or we might have to sacrifice the power inside. So currently we're not doing that. Megavore is not really useful for this build. I have an action skill active, weapon damage is increased by 200% anointment on this Face Puncher. You might prefer to use a Face Puncher with on action skill end. What that is going to do is it's going to give you slightly more damage when you're not in fadeaway. But this build is really about using fadeaway and getting it back as quickly as possible. When we have a look at the gameplay footage, you'll see that the damage that is done during fadeaway is absolutely enormous. The other weapons that are useful for this build, a very low level sellout. We could use that to strip our shields if we're using a low level brawler ward. that will strip our shields, and the Brawler Ward here has 300% melee damage while shield is depleted, so that's an immediate bonus. Other shields that you could use, the Frozen Heart or a Stinger Shield. I find that the Stinger Shield is very good for mobbing, but I actually prefer the Frozen Heart for mobbing. The Brawler Shield is best for bossing. Artifact. We need a white elephant. These come in various combinations. You can have knife drain, you could have a cut purse or a radiation stone or any other type of elemental stone to apply elemental damage to the face puncher. Personally, I find that the damage is more than enough, and that is more important to have the lifesteal to keep you alive. This particular white elephant is rather good because it has action skill cooldown and melee damage and area of effect damage. The area of effect damage is not so important because apart from when the anointment that provides elemental damage after action skill end is live, we won't be doing any splash damage. Perhaps a more appropriate white elephant would have action skill cooldown rate, melee damage, and perhaps just straight gun damage or weapon damage, something of that nature. If you had a stone version of the white elephant that's applying elemental damage to your melee shots from the face puncher, perhaps the area of effect damage would be advantageous, but also you may find that a straight element specific damage boost, so if you had a stone that applied corrosive damage to your melee, then perhaps corrosive damage increase passive would be advantageous. Finally, I like to keep a Unforgiven for crit swapping. Some people don't like crit swapping, they find it's cheesy, but when you're outside of your fadeaway, when you're just in normal combat, being able to swap, apply a sticky bomb to a crit area on a boss, on a badass or another enemy, and just swapping to the trick Unforgiven to finish them off is useful, very useful for second wins. Some people don't like it. Personally, I think it's in the game and I don't have an issue with it. Comms. Now, the comms that I am using at the moment are a Deadeye or a Bounty Hunter. I like to use the Deadeye when I'm bossing. This build will very easily one-shot some of the bosses, and having 35% extra damage against enemies with 75% health really helps. This one has splash damage and splash radius, and weapon damage, well, unless we're applying an element to our face puncher, the splash damage and splash damage radius won't be of a lot of benefit. The weapon damage would. Obviously passives that would be more advantageous would be action skill cooldown, weapon damage, melee damage, that sort of thing. On my Bounty Hunter I have weapon damage, action skill cooldown rate, and grenade damage. Again, fairly good. I'd prefer the grenade damage to be swapped to something else like melee damage, but this is the comm that I've got. I've had it since level 50. Hopefully I'll find something better. Skill wise, the Deadeye is a great comm because it boosts the Fast and the Furious. If you can get a comm that's got 3 out of 3 in that, that's going to give you a large damage boost. It's regularly 25% gun damage. If you can boost that to 6 out of 3, then you'll have 50% gun damage and 60% pet damage. I'll briefly talk about Two Fang. This comm is boosting Two Fang. I would prefer if it didn't boost Two Fang. Two Fang, all that does is add an extra projectile. If you're using a weapon that shoots a single projectile, this is a fantastic skill, but we're using a shotgun which delivers between 7 and 14 pellets, so that would only increase it to 8 or 15. Not a great damage increase. So preferably on the bounty hunter, you'd want your points into the Fast and the Furious, and perhaps the 2 points into Go for the Eyes, just for that extra damage for the pet. If I was going to use the bounty hunter comm, ideally I'd like 5 points in Frenzy. I play with Guardian rank on, and the Groundbreaker skill here, which you get at 125 Guardian points, is a fantastic Guardian rank perk and works very well with any melee build. If you don't have this because you haven't got the Guardian rank points, this build will still work. It really will. This just gives you a little extra damage, particularly outside of fadeaway. I like to use these modifiers, or along these lines. I like to have Speed Demon because who doesn't like to go fast, and I like to have Holy Crit for the crit damage. Again, the Face Puncher doesn't deliver crit damage, but the sticky bombs will if they land on a crit spot. And then I like to have Drone Ranger because that gives me something to shoot at if I need to get a second wind and my pet isn't reviving me. The same for Freeze Tag. Healy Avenger would be another good medium modifier, but I would recommend Speed Demon and Holy Crit. I would not recommend any of the floor effect type modifiers, Pool Party, the floor is lava, that sort of thing. I find them very, very problematic, particularly if you're going to run the Brawl Award with the shield down for extra melee damage. That's going to make you very, very squishy. If you're using a different comm, a different shield, then that's not quite so important. But that's the modifiers that I like. Anyway, that's the build. As I said, I'm not a flak master. I'm not an authority on flak. There are many people who understand flak more than I do. And as I said at the beginning of this video, this really is Space Robot's build. I'm just putting my spin on it. Please check him out, or her out, and check their channel, maybe subscribe, give them some love. I think we'll shoot over and do a little bit of mobbing content, and perhaps we'll do a couple of bosses as well. So I'll see you over there. Bye for now. Right, welcome to Athenas. We're going to run this build through until the final boss Traunt. I've equipped the Frozen Heart. We'll put the Unforgiven on just in case we need to do some crit swapping. I have an ASE Hex, which has given us bonus shock damage. I might change that to bonus radiation damage. There we go. So that'll be for when we're out of fadeaway, to give us some extra elemental damage. And cryo grenade is never a bad thing anyway. Pairs nicely with the Frozen Heart. When we activate our action skill, Fade Away, it'll release Enlarge Nova and freeze enemies. Important thing is it freezes enemies, holds them in place, and frozen enemies take 30% more melee damage. So we'll proceed through here. See if we can get our pet to
Into the
do some attacking. If we can hit our shots, then every shot will count. Missed that one. Get our Fade Away back as quickly as we can. By scoring critical hits with the Face Puncher, although the Face Puncher damage doesn't do critical hits, the White Elephant does. Fade Away's back. We'll nip over here with a few enemies. Go into Fade Away. And take them out. Then we'll get our Fade Away back nice and quickly. Fade Away's nearly back. If I was a better aim, it would be back already. That's back into Fade Away. There we go, all the enemies are dead. So the important thing with this build is when you're not in Fade Away, try to aim for critical hits. That will bring back the action skill quicker. Because this is a frostbite enemy, it won't be frozen by the shield. All enemies would normally be. We'll take care of that gentleman up there on the gantry because he can be a bit pesky, and then we will see if we can't jump in and get a bit more damage underway. Fade Away's back. So we've got 2 shots left on our Fade Away, so we'll go and find some other likely candidates. There's one. Missed it. That would be the other one. Try and get some critical hits. Frozen enemies taking extra melee damage. Fade Away's back. Missed. Obviously, if you're a better shot than me, this is going to be a much easier build to play. And we've gone down. We should be able to get back up nice and easily. There we go. Back into Fade Away. And even though my poor playing meant I took a knee, we were able to get back up without having to use a rocket launcher or something else. Fade Away's nearly back. And a few critical hits just to make it happen a little bit faster. Jump in the back here, activate Fade Away. They all freeze. Most of them die, including myself. And we're back. Didn't even have to have the pet revive me, although obviously the pet will do that. Fade Away's nearly back. Here we go. Fade Away's back. Activate Fade Away. The thing to remember with these builds is that if you activate the Frozen Heart, the Nova will break barrels. That's I think why I managed to go down there. With better gameplay, you're not going to go down as much as I do. But this is more a demonstration of the power of the build, and showing that it will get you out of fight for your life is part of the process. We've got our fadeaway back. Get rid of these barrels so that we don't have the same thing happen to us. Get a group of them coming down now. There we go. If we can activate fadeaway.
Keep them busy.
It'll. We could be able to jump over here and take care of them as well. Avoiding the barrel if we can. Fadeaway back. Let's make sure we're the right side of this barrier. Activate fadeaway. And everything's dying. One more enemy over here. And by the time we get round to the next enemy, our fadeaway will be back.
Exhilarating!
A little bit of a quick crit spot swap there just to finish that last one off, and then we're going to take on the boss. We're going to change to the Brawler Ward shield, and we will use our sellout to break the shield. And we will change to an It's Piss grenade, because that will give us extra weapon damage, and will give a 20% damage increase, essentially. It'll debuff, if that's the right word, the enemy, make him take damage a little bit more. So we'll change to that. So,
Yes, to the bloodletting!
strip our shield, activate fadeaway, use our grenade if we can get round the back, and 2 shots was all it needed. So you can see for mobbing, this is a good solid build. With good gameplay, you shouldn't go down as much as I do. So I think what we'll do now is we will move on to a couple of bosses. So we'll pop over and see Grave Ward. Maybe we'll go and do the Ruiner as well. Those bosses are very one-shottable. So I think we'll try the one-shot. See you over at Grave Ward. So here we are at Grave Ward. We're going to jump down, strip our shield with the low level sellout, go into fadeaway, throw our grenade, take the one shot, see what happens. We're not going to do this on his chest spot. We're going to wait for him to present his arm. This can be done on his chest spot, but for demonstration purposes we will take the slightly easier route. So he's about to present his arm. Let's strip the shields. Go and fade away. Throw our grenade. Take the shot. And there he is. One shot on Graveward. I think we'll also go over to the Ruiner. Maybe try that as well. See what happens. So I'll see you over there. So here we are at Ruiner. We're going to do similar to Graveward. Strip our shield, jump over, going to fade away, throw the grenade, take the one shot, and let's see what happens.
That's the spirit.
There we go. One shot on the Ruiner. Just make sure there's nothing going to take us down while we have a quick recap of the build. So again, we're using the face puncher. This one is with the active skill active, 200% weapon damage anointment. In this instance I used a low level sellout to break my shield. Other weapons that I use might be the Unforgiven for crit swapping. Shields, this instance I've used a low level brawler ward. A stinger would work. Frozen heart would work, anything that suits your playstyle. Grenades, in this instance I've used an It's Piss, but you could use a hex grenade or something with an action skill element, action skill end elemental anointment, or an on grenade throw anointment, whichever suits your playstyle. We've used the knife drain white elephant artifact to give us the extra melee damage and to give us the sticky bombs, and I've been using this bounty hunter. Could easily have used the Deadeye for the two bosses, but this is working for me. Quick recap of the skills. There you go. Quick look at our Guardian rank there. Mayhem 10 with our modifiers. And that's the build. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It would help me out. And check back for more Borderlands 3 videos. I've been LD50. You've been great. See you later.